Well, we saw a quick glimpse of Adam Price at the top of the programme as he was addressing the delegates from the stage. Now it's time to hear from him. And this is what the Assembly member for Caernarfon East and Dinefwr, the former MP, had to say to the delegates earlier this afternoon.
This was meant to be the decade of delivery. Remember that? It's turned into the decade of drift. But, you know, instead of wallowing in a trough of Celtic despair somewhere, it's time to turn our eyes now to the coming decade. This should be for us a decade of decision, of who and what we want to be as a people and a nation. Around the world, we're seeing a raging battle between old and new nationalisms, between old worlds, old elites and old empires, and new nations struggling to be born. 2 weeks ago, I had the enormous privilege to be on Catalan soil when the voice of an entire nation rung out like the peal of a bell in the schoolyards, the length and breadth of the land in which people gathered at dawn to vote their way to freedom. As I arrived and as I left polling station after polling station as an international observer, the crowds gathering outside patiently to vote, forming human chains to block the Guardia Civil, began to part like the Red Sea. And the murmur went round, Visitants International. And I was clapped in and out as elderly men and women on walking sticks and in wheelchairs, dark memories of days past thickening in their tears, mouthed these simple words, "Thank you, Wales." And on that point, I did something probably an international election observer probably shouldn't do, because I broke down to cry myself. It's Wales, Catalonia, that thanks you. Your struggle is our struggle. It is humanity's struggle, the eternal struggle for dignity, liberty, and self-respect. The late, great Martin Luther King, in The Birth of a New Nation, his great sermon on the independence movements that swept away the British Empire, said that the long story of history was the internal desire for freedom from within the soul of every man. In that sermon that I urge every one of you to read, he uses the biblical story of the Exodus from Egypt to Canaan as a universal metaphor of liberation, a yearning for the promised land, inscribed in our own history and geography here in Wales, from Bethlehem to Nazareth to Nebo, from Carmel to Bethesda to Bethel. There is something in the soul that cries out for freedom, Martin Luther King said. There is something deep down within the very soul of man that reaches out for Canaan. Men cannot be satisfied with Egypt. Many men have vested interests in Egypt. Remember those cricket club ties? And they are slow to leave. Some people profit by Egypt. But the vast majority are never content with it. And eventually they rise up and begin to cry out for Canaan's land. Now, if we're to build our own Canaan, the new nation that Leanne talked about so movingly yesterday, then we will need a new nationalism. We will need a nationalism that is less about the fulfillment of an ancient promise and more the fulfillment of our future potential. We'll need a national movement that is broad, not narrow, because a small nation cannot afford the luxury of sectarian or parochial division. If you want to see Wales prosperous and free, then brother and sister, your place is here by my side, by our side, striving together for the country we want to be. And we need a new nationalism that has the self-belief to win. You know, this is already happening, albeit on a small scale. Little victories that are harbingers of the larger successes to come. Here in Gwynedd and Ynys Môn, we've already introduced the locals-only market for new housing for the very first time in Wales on the Lake District model. As Shadow Finance Minister, Over a period of just 15 months, through 2 budget agreements, I was able to achieve, together with the group, something that no opposition party has been able to achieve since the beginning of devolution. And few opposition parties have been able to boast the delivery of in part or in full of over half our major manifesto commitments from 2016. A young entrant scheme for farmers, the creation of Arfor, a new economic powerhouse here in the West, the abolition of the Cleddau Bridge tolls. These are just a few of the instances where we changed government policy in Wales for the good of Wales. Now, what did the Tory so-called opposition have to say about this? Well, here's a snippet from earlier in the year from the BBC. Welsh Labour ministers should act to scrap tolls on a Pembrokeshire bridge, the Conservatives have said. Tory Transport spokesperson Russell George accused the Welsh Government of hypocrisy, given its view that Severn Bridge tolls should be abolished. Is that the same Conservative Party that lambasted that budget agreement that actually did get rid of those Cleddau Bridge tolls? We've achieved more in 15 months than they have achieved in 15 years. Who are the hypocrites now, I wonder? Now, the Conservatives have recently been accusing me of cooking up a tourism tax. Now, I know that my dulcet West Wales tones are difficult for some to penetrate, but what I'm actually in favour of is a tourism tax. A tax... Yes, that's a tax that we finally can all get behind. A tax on Tory politicians who will be issued with a fine every time they lie and break a promise, whether it's electrification or tidal lagoons or tariff-free trade or £350 million a week extra for the NHS. We'll tax Alan Cairns until the pips squeak. And boy, do those pips squeak. We've achieved so much in opposition, more than we could have dreamed possible. But imagine how much more we could achieve in government. So let's fix our eyes now on that horizon. We have a nation to persuade that there is a different way, a different Wales that is as yet unborn. And that's why we'll soon be launching a new think tank for the party and the country we want to create. Nova Cambria. We've chosen that name not just because it speaks to the new Wales we want to see, but it reminds us that it's us here now upon which that responsibility falls. Nova Cambria was the name given to the first attempt to create a new Wales in foreign climes, some 15 years before at Wladfa, when Thomas Benbow Phillips of Tregaron attempted to create a Welsh utopia, not in the Patagonian desert, but in the tropical forests of Brazil. What we lacked as a nation in terms of geographical knowledge, we clearly never lacked in optimism. The weather was a little bit different to Tregaron, I think it's festive to say. But, you know, here's the thing. We've exported our talent, our hopes, our dreams for too long as a nation. It's time to turn them into reality here at home. So over the next few months, we will task Nova Cambria with working up the detail of the kind of bold, original ideas that we want to see at the heart of the Plaid Cymru government programme of 2021, in which I hope to serve. These ideas are based on the things you as members and supporters have been telling us as elected members you want to see in the new Wales we will begin to build. That means calling an end to free cash for foreign-owned companies to little or no long-term benefit to the Welsh economy, ensuring all future support to business is channeled through an independent development bank, investing in Welsh-based businesses, not through grants, but through loans and long-term equity investments. We will abolish business rates and replace them with a system of taxation that is fairer, doesn't penalise the high street or punish capital investment. In return for this commitment to help our indigenous businesses, we'll also be asking business to work with us for the good of Wales. We'll create a regional network of business and enterprise councils, business-led organisations based on the model of continental chambers of commerce, independent of government, but business deciding what business needs to thrive and prosper in every part of Wales. We will introduce a guaranteed youth basic income for all young people between the ages of 18 to 24, so that young people can study in higher or further education, or start a business, or spend a year volunteering in a true national citizen service. And for those out of work, we'll guarantee a job, so that our young people can give back to our country, but so that we can also give to them the foundations they need for their future, which is our future too. We'll use our guarantee to the youth of our country to attract back the almost half of our undergraduates that leave our country every year, many of them never to return. You are our future, and we want to make your future here. We will create financial security for the young as the surest foundation for them to build up their productivity, build on their creativity, and together build prosperity for all. I'm fed up of being a late nation, so we'll become the first to do this in the world. We'll turn this nation from laggard to leader. One by one, we'll take those league tables that have us languishing at the bottom, and we'll turn the world upside down and our Wales the right side up. We'll do it by the power of our belief. We'll do it with the steely determination of a people on the path to freedom. We'll do it with the hopes of generations to come as a guiding light in front of us, and the voices of generations past ringing in our ears. Ymlaen, Macanan. We're on our way, off to Canaan land. It's been a mighty long time, but we're on our way. It's a mighty hard climb, but we're on our way. We're on our way. Glory, hallelujah. We are on our way.
Adam Price there, and I'll be speaking to him live from the conference later on in the programme.